So our next topic today is actually something really near and dear to my heart, because I like to think that I have a little bit of a street fighter in me, but it's all about thinking with a challenger mindset. And just a quick intro from my side, I'm Kaitlin O'Brien. I work on the client partnerships team at Influential, which is the biggest influencer marketing company. We work very closely with brands of all sizes to help them bring influencer programs to life, and we're actually part of the Snap Star Collab studio as well. So really excited to be here. On the panel with me here today, it's really great. I'm really great group of people. And I'm excited to get to know them more, even though it's only been like 24 hours. But I'll start. First, we have Sally Barton, Marketing Excellence Lead US for Mondelēz. Ben Soffer, founder and CEO of Spritz Society, and also, don't kill me, but he's also an influencer and content creator himself. Many people in my office are quite jealous that I'm here in your presence. And then we have a powerhouse duo, a husband and wife couple, aka the Wishers, or the Wishes. So Ian Wishingrad, we're Wishers too, and Wishes. So Ian Wishingrad, co-founder and CMO of Three Wishes Foods, and Margaret Wishingrad, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Three Wishes Foods, and no doubt the household CEO as well. Round of applause there. So first question I want to ask, kind of like an icebreaker, but I think it's actually one that I'd like the audience to think about and reflect on as well, is what was your first job, your first paying job? And that could be as far back as you want to go. What did you learn from that experience that has shaped your role, or what you can apply to your role today? So who wants to start? Hello?
Oh, it's working. Okay, I'll go. So I love this question because it really made me reflect. My first job was working in a supermarket on the checkout, or the till, in the UK, in Tesco. So it's one of our biggest supermarkets. And I got to see customers every day come through my checkout. I greeted them with a smile, got mystery shop once, 100%, got a free bottle of wine. So I was really passionate about my job. But it really helped me when I went for my first job interview at Rebecca Benkiza, because I knew all about cleaning products and all the stuff that people were buying and why they were buying it, because I just used to see it every day in front of me. And I realized that basically that job was like, I was basically AC Nielsen. I was like seeing all the data live myself. So it just gave me real insight into consumers and when they're shopping, why they're shopping, the kind of stuff they buy with it, and the stuff they're dealing with in the store. So yeah, that truly did get me my first job, which was awesome.
Cool. My first job was at Redfuse, which is a subsidiary of Young & Rubicam focused on Colgate toothpaste, and I think that experience taught me that being young at an ad agency, they'll really make you do just about everything they don't want to do. So it taught me a lot about, honestly, what I didn't want to do, but a lot about what I would love to do, which is how do I get in a position where I can create these ads as opposed to just doing things that my superiors didn't want me to do. So, challenger mindset from the beginning.
Mine was cleaning the golf carts at the local municipal golf course, the crappier of the two municipal golf courses in Stamford, Connecticut. Shout out Egator Brennan. And basically the trick was that if they didn't bring the key back into the clubhouse, that was a $1 deposit. And there was this tacit agreement that, you know, if you did a little bit of friendliness, they'd leave the key with just $1. So I had cargo pants just filled with dollar bills like I was going to a strip club in high school. And then what I would do is I set up a stand to clean the clubs to kind of add an offering. And then, you kind of look at the guys like this, and then you'd make extra money. So I think it just taught me about always looking for an opportunity to make an extra buck and hustle, and it's a good opportunity.
Nothing changed. So I was telling Ian before we came here, I was like, I feel like my entire life before this was just a bunch of first jobs. I worked at the doctor office, then I went into real estate, and it was just a bunch of these little steps until I ended up doing what I love to do. But every little crap job you have to do along the way teaches you some little act of resilience or pushing the envelope a little bit more. And yeah, so I'm really grateful for all of the prep work.
So a challenger is set apart by a purpose-driven mindset, that entrepreneurial spirit that really progresses in category. What does purpose mean to each of you? And what is your point of differentiation? How did you sort of find your purpose and realize it?
I can go. It was always about making products that people actually wanted and making products better so that customers would be excited to drink it again, at least in my category, as opposed to really excited about the marketing or who's behind it, ready to buy it once, but then ultimately there's so much backlash as it relates to either how a product tastes or who's behind it or what's in it. So the purpose was really making something that was better, but also making something that was better based on consumer feedback and understanding what they truly wanted, not listening to or reading white paper on a space that people think that they know, really asking the customer exactly what they wanted. In our case, with Spritz Society, that was making a wine-based sparkling cocktail, and all of the industry articles would talk about how agave farms are super cheap and everybody should go into tequila, and that's why you saw 200 celebrity-driven tequila brands all at once, because everybody was reading the exact same thing, right? So actually asking our audience, what do you want? Why do you want it? What flavors do you want? And making something better was the purpose.
Yeah, I think, back to your point, everything's so category specific, but for us, it was to give people the permission to consume cereal. Because for the longest time, it was a lot of the brands we grew up as children, super sugar filled, no real nutrition, and our ability to now give people that permission to enjoy the taste of cereal and not have to feel so guilty about it, it's a big thing. And then the second part of it is, Ian and I have an ad agency, creative agency, and so building brands for people all the time, purpose is such an enormous part of a brand and what they stand for and what they do. And it's been a really interesting journey for us as parents, and we discovered cereal kind of through our child and realized, hey, there's really nothing out there. How do we go and create that? Has been a lot of fun too.
As you can see, oh sorry, you can have
No.
I was going to say, as you can see, I work at Mondelēz, and I work across a bunch of our brands, and I'm also sorry that I didn't bring any Oreos in, but next time I promise. I used to work on the Triscuit brand, and it just really resonated with what you said about how important purpose is. Like, Triscuit is a pretty big brand, right? We are not a challenger brand when it comes to Wishingrad, so we have a safety net there. However, we did have to have a challenger mindset because all of Triscuit's competitors, there isn't one big cracker that's like Triscuit. There are hundreds of new cool crackers that are in Whole Foods, that are in like the local health stores. There are all these new trendy entrepreneurial brands. And so we were really competing against that. So it became really important. They all recently launched into the market with a really clear purpose, really clear social purpose, and very sustainable, all in the world of well-being. We had to compete with that, so our purpose was weaving nourishment into the world, right? We had to be very distinctive to who we are. We are the woven cracker, and we really had to go back to why we existed in the first place. Triscuit was created in the 1920s, and it was, earlier. I'm already forgetting my Triscuit stats. Better for you since 1902. That was it, that's how I remember it. So it was created because back in the day, there was a real need to drive healthier eating. Similar to what you're talking about, that was what was understood then. There was this whole phrase of, actually, we do need to start eating more healthier, nutritious food, and that's why it was created. That's why we stick to it now, and that's how we're really trying to show up with that purpose in everything we do. We have a social purpose, we still do around food, sustainability and thinking about food security. We partner with our farmers, we partner with retailers to really support that. A long answer, but purpose really became extra crucial as we realised we were competing against challenges and needed to match them with that challenger mindset.
Can I ask a question just quick? As such a legacy brand, how do you balance thinking about recreating purpose for challenger brands versus already having mass distribution? So when I think of somebody like myself trying to define my purpose and be different, I'm looking at it from the mindset of how do I get as much exposure on a retail shelf, for example. But if I already had all of that mass retail distribution, I want to be protecting it at all costs and not changing the brand at all, knowing that this is exactly what people love. Like, how do you balance that?
I think we're not really trying to change the brand, but really hone into why it existed in the first place. Because I do think you always need to stay true to why a brand was created. We do that across a number of our brands. Like Cadbury was, its purpose is around generosity, and we go back to the day. It was created with extra milk inside, so that it tasted creamier. And so we just honing into like the DNA of the brand to really like leverage that. I think you cannot change the purpose. You cannot go in a new direction or create something new because it feels inauthentic. So it definitely has to be what is true to the brand and what is true to its origin story. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay, good.
And on that topic, I'll just chime in, Sally. So how do you build and equip a team then to think with that challenger mindset? How do you disseminate that?
We have to learn from people like those on the panel. Like, I feel like a bit of a fraud because I sit here, you know, we have the safety net of Mondelēz, but this team here are all, you know, really driving the entrepreneurial mindset, and we have to try and think and learn and be like entrepreneurs. And one of the big things there is empowering our team to feel like that. That's one of the biggest mind shifts. We can have all of the budgets, we can have all of this, you know, expertise and data, but unless we empower our team members to really test, learn, be unafraid to try something, be unafraid to fail, and just go out there. And we were just saying before, like, you said something that stuck with me, you know, don't go out there thinking like you're going to fail, you just go out there and you plan for the best and you make sure that things happen and you have that work ethic and that spirit that really drives you to go and make a change. And that's the thing that we need to embrace as a big CPG organization. That mindset is going to be the difference between just kind of, you know, following processes and being a big CPG to actually activating with agility and speed and the speed of relevance and the speed of culture. So that's my number one thing, that mindset shift.
So as challenger brands often have limited budgets and resources compared to others, how can challenger brands really effectively manage their budgets and make the biggest impact? What have you seen work and breakthrough?
I mean, so we brought an example. So as Margaret said, we have a creative agency in New York and we do work for other brands, so we've had this lovely fortune of seeing what works and what doesn't work, spending other people's money and not blowing our own. And so at the same time, trying to do these like clever earned media stunts are extremely risky to sell to clients because they could go nowhere. And it take a lot of time and effort on our place, and you could end up with like, you know, Prince Harry did something, and then you're like out of the news cycle. So, but for us, Three Wishes is kind of like our little baby fun client that has no money but doesn't say no to anything. So, I mean, if we can play that first video, I think we basically done a bunch of fun stunts that have gotten us a lot of press, and we just try to, I call it the evergreen zeitgeist. You want to hop in on something that's in the press. It's not like just for the moment. It's very hard to hop into something like the day of. But in general, if there's a kind of thing going on, there is a way to jump in cleverly, and that's what we've done.
So this one was, Ian came to me and he was like, this is when obviously COVID tests were a thing, and he had this idea, and I was like, Ian, you're absolutely nuts, no one's gonna care, what a waste of time. He was like, Margaret, let's just do it. And so we ended up doing it, had a ton of people drive through, and it just started to snowball, and especially to Ian's point, in a time when the entire news cycle was awful. It was all about deaths and hospitals and shortages, and so to see what a small business is doing during a time of just like craziness was, I think, this fun little thing that all these news channels wanted to share. So all of a sudden, it started to just, as I mentioned, snowball, and ended up being on Fox National when everyone was at home watching TV. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see all of our online audience going crazy, and it ended up being one of our biggest sales days. And that all came from Ian just going, like, we should do it, and he's saying, no, we shouldn't. So I think the point there was, like, it taught me to just start throwing things against the wall, and something's going to stick. We had so many fun ones that we did that kind of went nowhere. No one cares. Like, we had plenty that we did, and they actually ended up turning into something. So that was a big lesson for me personally, but it really takes that like ballsy, just try it and see what happens. You don't need the budget necessarily to always do fun things that make people feel something.
But on that, so how do you know when the risk is worth the reward? And
Margaret says no.
So, because you also had a really great example where you likened, which I thought was so clever and creative, where you likened your brand redesign, your logo redesign to like a cosmetic
facelift.
But there was no risk to that one.
No.
I don't think there's much risk to most of them.
Yeah, I mean, like if it makes, I mean, there's other, you could do a lot of crazy things. When I was first out of college, I worked at an ad agency. We had Pepsi, and they had Baja Blast. It was like a drink, and I didn't know what a good idea and a bad idea was at the time. So like, we should go to the Baja-Mexico border and serve illegal immigrants Baja Blast, and we'll make news. And they're like, that's a horrible idea. That will be a lot of problems for us in Taco Bell and PepsiCo. And I'm like, okay, man, you know. So like, you have to learn that not all news is the right news. And like, trying to find the right one where people think makes them smile. And they're like, yeah, I like that. You know, like that's kind of the thread. So what they were mentioning is we slightly updated our box. We went into Target this year, Costco, and we're doing more conventional grocery channels and not just Whole Foods. And we slightly made our box look better. And I called it a facelift. And I'm like, no one's going to give two shits that we updated our box. But if you go on TikTok, there's a lot of plastic surgeons that will do the green screen and they'll be like, this is Tom Cruise. I didn't do the surgery before and after. They're like, I think he got his eyes worked out. I think he got this done. So I hit up all these plastic surgeons and said, would you review our box facelift? And they literally would, you know, like their logo was droopy and now it's tight and snatched. And we didn't pay anything because we weren't asking them to sell the product and, you know, anyway, so it's like fun. And like people look for fun content and so we do that stuff all the time.
And I think what's interesting is it served two things. One, they got to refresh their content, do something a little different, and the lift was so easy for them. And then the other part was the audience is kind of really similar. It's someone that does consider how they look, how they feel, what they're consuming. So from both sides, it was actually pretty beneficial. And so it was really fun and kind of to a lot of what we do. Does it make you feel something about the brand? Does it make you smirk and go like, oh, what? Those Wishingrads, they're fun and creative. So I think that's kind of the takeaway that we want from our brand, for people to just feel good about what they're eating, but also what they're buying. I think people love to buy from not just brands, but from people, and that's a really important thing for us.
Ben, how does your experience as an influencer also impact your view of business? And how do you, as you continue to grow, still stay true to your identity, but still stay ahead of the curve?
So the first and most important thing is that, and you know this from Influential, most influencers can't convert for shit. And it was such a wonderful, eye-opening experience to start to work with some macro influencers in the beginning. And I wasn't paying anybody. Like we would barter. Like that's honestly, to answer the question that you guys answered before, the way that you keep costs low, at least for us, is bartering. Bartering is at the core of everything we do. You know that we add value to things, so we'd like to see those brands and folks sort of add value themselves. But knowing which influencers to partner with, why you're paying somebody, how to think about spending money, and just influence in general is just incredibly, incredibly important. And being somebody that has built an audience over the last decade and has an audience that trusts him and can convert, and I can see my own metrics, and I know what it takes to build audience trust. Like when I see an influencer pop up that's been famous for 9 months and has 1 million followers and is charging, I don't know, $25,000 for an in-feed post, I know that they won't return anything. And like this idea that you should be paying for awareness is so silly to me from people where it doesn't, their awareness is incredible, right? Like what you're talking about, like doing stunty, cool stuff to garner awareness, that's so much smarter than working with a random macro influencer with 2 million followers. Like if you're gonna spend money, go get Kylie Jenner because she moves mountains, like pay for it. Because her influence, I mean, Taylor Swift is like, I can't even talk about her. Like it's just, it's disgusting. Like the level of influence is just, it's unbelievable. Like that goes to show you that there is something out there that's worth it, right? But brands all the time are just getting, like, it's just smoke and mirrors. They're like, oh, this person, they're so big, they're going to change my business. And so it was great to be able to go into this business knowing that our expectations of PR gifting are not that we're going to have the greatest sales day in our company's history, but that in order to really generate sales, we need to do things that our audience is looking for, that will keep them really interested, that are really, for us, it's collab driven. But so taking everything that I know about influencer marketing to be a farce and avoiding it, and everything that I know about influencer marketing that really transforms a business and doubling down.
To Ben's point, so you are an influencer in like the truest sense. For us, some grocery stores are influencers for us. So have you guys ever heard of this thing called Erewhon? Raise your hands. You know Erewhon? It is like the
The
second.
$20 smoothie, by the way, changed everyone's life apparently. I think like that's how everyone started to do it.
So I never heard of Erewhon. We're from New York. It was this like 4 stores at the time in Los Angeles, and they have the second best retail sales per square foot than an Apple store. Like they are ridiculous. And they were like, you must get in there. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's influencer. And literally now we're the #1 cereal there. And that place, the amount of, because so we don't pay it. I mean, we just get on the shelf, but then all the influencers that go there to shop and the celebrities that buy it and then post about it organically. So thinking about influence holistically is how we think about it, because like you're like it's like the definition, and there's a lot of other things that create influence that are very meaningful to us.
Did you know that Erewhon was just nowhere backwards?
I did.
How lame is that?
The guys of that. So
I don't believe it. I don't believe that they didn't know.
No, they knew it. What I'm saying is that the Erewhon that you know now, it's been around since like 1968. It's a now friends of ours, family that like saw something special there and turned it. They didn't name it. They just took the name. I don't think they thought the name was great, but they thought there was magic.
Do we have any questions from the audience? I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions.
So, really interesting conversation, thank you. I'm wondering if you can define for the audience the difference between an influencer, an endorsement, a sponsorship, and a collab. Or if those are interchangeable.
Okay, so an endorsement to me is very clearly I'm receiving a check for something and I'm leveraging my name and likeness for a brand. An influencer campaign to me is, if you're doing them right, typically a little bit more authentic. They probably use the products, or you hope they've used the products in the past. What was the third?
Sponsorship.
And a collab.
Collabs, at least for us, and I know we'll talk about this, collabs are a win-win for both parties involved, and ultimately the goal is making the coolest experience for the customer. So collabs should be like that end goal of like this just like euphoria of, oh, I can't believe these two got together and made something so amazing. So to me, collabs are my absolute favorite because I think they put the customer first. I think everything else really doesn't.
Talk about yours.
Those are, well,
Please,
I think
no,
we,
no, please,
oh, just
please,
going,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, go ahead.
So we have, okay, cool. So collabs are the core of everything we do. The first that we did was with an influencer. Her name is Lauren Bostic. We made the Pink Lemonade Spritz Society can that has sold $400,000 worth in 2 drops, both 48 hours each. And from there, we said, okay, this is a really good way to get earned press, make money, and keep our audience engaged. So we reached out to the largest pickle company in the US, which is Claussen, and asked them to collab on a pickle spritz that got 600 million earned media impressions and went completely viral and tastes amazing. And so now this is just at the core of everything that we do, and we've realized that in terms of site traffic, the lift from doing these collabs is incredible. The amount of new customers that you get, I think that Claussen was 75% new customers. So you're getting 6 figures in revenue and an entire new customer base that wasn't exposed to your product that loved Claussen, for example. It's just such a win-win, and when the customer receives their order, that unboxing experience again creates a new, just potentially viral moment that can live on social.
But how did you choose that partnership? Like, how did you know that this was right? Were there inputs or any kind of research, or how did you find that white space?
So for the Skinny Confidential, she is a friend and she's in our ecosystem, so it felt very natural to do first and low risk. For Claussen, we put out an April Fool's joke in 2021 or 2022 that we were making a pickle spritz thinking it sounded disgusting, and we got like 2,000 emails that it didn't sound disgusting, it sounded amazing, and they were really mad that they were duped. So we then decided to see if we could actually create one and sell it, and to our surprise, it did incredibly well.
How was the taste testing?
So good, really good. I mean, I like pickles. Like, if you don't like pickles, then don't try it. If you like pickles, it's great. It's great.
That's awesome. I can just add on collabs, like, a brand as big as Oreo is also trying to get in on collabs because it just speaks to, to use the phrasing again, the challenger mindset of really getting into culture, getting into where consumers are finding that moment that matters, being relevant to them. So Oreo identifies the cohorts of consumers that we really want to resonate with. So we did a Lady Gaga collaboration. So really talking to those, music, a huge LGBTQ audience as well. We do a lot of stuff with E-Flag. So that was one of the collabs. We did a Pokemon one, and to your point around really delighting the consumer, with the Pokemon Oreos, every single Oreo had different embossments of all the different Pokemons. You've got to catch them all, and people that really love Pokemon were buying them, putting them on eBay, like searching to make sure they got all of the, that real joy of like trying to find Pokemon. So it was that kind of win-win of, connecting with that equity, with that fun of Pokemon, and we've done things like Game of Thrones. These are all big platforms.
We have the Super Mario ones in our pantry for our kids.
Yes, that's the most
They love it.
recent
We've
one.
purchased them multiple times.
And it's like all the fun you can have with the packaging, with the cookie, and just really like joining in on the fun.
Do you all have an aspirational brand or, an example of a campaign or a brand that has been a source of inspiration for you? Or who do you think, apart from yourselves, is doing challenger marketing effectively?
I actually remember seeing the Oreo Game of Thrones collaboration and thinking that was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Like when you guys built the Game of Thrones theme song and made, I don't know if you guys remember this or saw this, that whole intro theme song was made out of Oreos one by one. Like that was just, I remember seeing it. It was just so unbelievably cool.
The one that inspired me to get my first job at this ad agency out of college, I remember waiting in line about, maybe 20 years ago now. You guys remember there was a Simpsons movie that came out, and they finally made a movie. And I was interning in Paramount, and they literally turned like 13 7-Elevens into full Quickie Marts. They reskinned them, they stocked them with the donuts and the Duff beer, and it was the most genius. It won the Titanium Lion and can. I remember waiting in line to go in on Venice Boulevard, and I was like, this is so smart. This is so good. And they got so much press. And so I think any time where it's really, really clever, I love it, and it has that big press multiplier effect.
So last question. What's one new insight, learning, or innovation, and it could be a shameless plug, I'll let you, you'd like to either apply to your challenger mindset or that you're looking forward to in the year to come?
I don't get the question.
So is there anything that you feel like maybe you haven't tried that you want to? Is there any kind of innovation out there that you want to explore? Is there any kind of takeaway even from this conversation that excites you the most?
I can go. I think the thing for me and for my team and for all of us at Mondelēz is really continuing to have that challenger mindset by learning, right? Everything in marketing is happening so fast. There's so many cool topics today that we've heard about, and I have an exclusive for this room, but it goes no further than this room. We're working with Brand Innovators to do a Mondelēz Brand Innovators Summit, just like this in New York. So I'm really excited that we're working on that because we're going to bring a lot more learnings and a bunch more of these topics that we can explore in more detail. So for me, it's all about the learning. That's the main part of my job is bringing capabilities into our team. So I'm excited for that.
I don't really have a good answer. I mean, this year we're testing out of home for the first time, which is exciting. You're talking about having a challenger mindset. Like, it's really fun to also do things that are just normal advertising. Like,
What's the line?
Not being so creative.
You gotta have good lines.
Yeah, we do. No, we don't have it yet. We don't have it.
So you know you're gonna do out of home, but you don't have the headlines yet?
We just have the distribution. So I know very confidentially we're going into 1,700 Walmarts in Q2. And so the question is, how do you remind people around you that you are in
Are you
those
doing America out of home or New York?
Oh, we're doing America.
Wow.
Yeah, so the question is, first, what are we going to do with it? But two, I am excited to see the lift of some traditional advertising that previously we just wouldn't even think of doing. Yeah, we'll try.
I love to have nothing I love more than that.
For me, the thing is, I feel like it's always really difficult to continue staying young and seeing what's happening on TikTok, and I'm like, how am I 4 days late? Everyone's already watched this, I know what's going on. So staying more in tune with I don't know, some parts of internet culture are the things that I kind of want to work on a little bit this year, and that's always been a really difficult hire for us internally, is the social media part of it. So that's a goal. Every time, it's really difficult. But no, we throw things against the wall so often that if there's nothing that I'm we're really waiting to do that. We just kind of go. We run and gun it. That's who we are as people, personally, professionally. So we're doing all the things. Stay tuned.
Well, thank you for the panelists and the topic. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.